prime location. You're gonna love it.
We knew, yeah, that's why we're like, we're staying there, because when we took the Skyliner, this is like great.
We kind of ended up resort blind like Sarah's like, okay, this is much more just a little get out of like the top sports and I was like, let's just do it and then it was more
Yeah, that's what we discovered.
There's sanitizing like every 15 minutes. There's work coming to the school. Sanitizing every.
All right, 6 p.m. We'll call this regular village board meeting to order. If you'd all please join me in a moment of silence. The Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, would you take the roll, please?
Trustee Mann. Here. Trustee Charo. Present. Trustee Mao. Here. Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Scherschel.
Present.
Village President Kimsey.
Present. Any public announcements this evening?
None were emailed in.
Public comments on agenda topics?
None were emailed in.
Hearing none, I'll take a motion to put the consent agenda on the table.
I'll move.
Everybody's made a motion. No.
Second.
Trustee Mao made a motion, second by Trustee Scherschel. Any discussion or questions regarding the warrants or the minutes?
Only one request is to change the committee of the whole minutes to public.
Oh, yes, we just did that.
Well, thank you.
All right. Madam Clerk, could you take the roll?
Yeah. Trustee Mann. Yes. Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Mack. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Scherschel.
Yes.
All right, old business, resolution 721, a resolution releasing the letter of credit for Cardinal Ridge. We have a motion to bring this to the floor.
That's still on the table. We haven't got the report from the engineer yet.
Make a motion to continue to table that, Chris.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Charles made a motion. Second by Trustee Scherschel. All in favor?
All right.
All right.
New business now. Sickich reported the audit of utility buildings agreed upon procedures performed over the utility buildings July and August 2020. Chad.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Pat asked us to perform.
And the closest you can get to it, the better for the people at home.
Okay.
And you can pull your mic.
Okay. So we were asked to do some recalculations and analysis for some of the utility billings for the month of July and August. And so this report is an agreed upon procedures report. So there's specific procedures that were identified by management and asked us to perform those procedures. And those things are listed in the letter. The letter itself says that this isn't an audit, but it's agreed upon procedure. So we don't give an opinion on what we did, but we did disclose what we did and what we found during this process. And so just for reference purposes, we were asked to select from each of the 11 precincts within the village. And so we were provided a precinct map. And so we randomly selected accounts using addresses from that map. So we didn't know whose addresses we were selecting or anything. So we essentially used the map to select 5 customers' addresses from each precinct for the months of July and August of 2020. So we selected a total of 110 customers that we tested.
So is that just looking at a map and just going pin the tail on the donkey?
That's correct. Yeah, the map we were provided, the precinct map, was interactive, so we just drilled down in the map and it showed all the addresses, and so we would just select an address and then we would request the information from Sherry and the utility billing department for that specific address. We didn't know whose address it was or anything. So they're essentially randomly selected, 110 different accounts that we tested. So I'll just kind of go through the procedures real quick here. and I'll get some high-level discussion, but Exhibit A has all the procedures that are listed in the engagement letter that were asked of us to perform. And so then we have our information, our summary kind of analysis below that. And you can see there, number one, step one was we obtained the audit trail from the Springbrook billing system for July and August. And so when we reviewed that, we noted that there were no changes in the consumption rates, the consumption or the rates to the customers that we selected. There were no changes in the system that we could see. Then in number two, this is where we kind of get into the calculations. And so just kind of for reference purposes here, we couldn't tell if there was a flaw in the meter reading itself. We were just using the reports that were provided from the system based on those meter readings. So step A there, we recalculated the consumption reported on the meter reading report. And you can see that we did that, and we didn't find any differences. We compared the read dates on the meter reading reports for the month to the read dates reported on the meter reading in the previous month during the same month. And so you can see there that we noted all the readings occurred during approximately the same time of the month. So what we were trying to figure out was if there was a, 1 month that had 30 days and the next month had, 45 days. And so generally speaking, there were variances in the number of days that were billed, but we didn't see anything that was out of line. It was generally around the same time. So for number C there, we compared the beginning read amounts on the meter reading report to the prior month ending. And so ultimately here, we were just making sure that things rolled forward correctly from 1 month to the next in your billing system, that there wasn't any breaks or gaps in the consumption reports that were read. And so we didn't find any items there. Compared to the consumption reported on the meter reading listing to the present month to the prior month, again, we did note fluctuations here. We were just trying to get an idea of the consumption this month versus the consumption this month. Obviously, that's based on the actual reads that were performed in the consumption used. So we did note fluctuations, but there wasn't anything that we could identify that there was a specific reason for that fluctuation other than consumption.
What do you mean by fluctuations?
Just in terms of the volume of, we were comparing consumptions from month to month. So for the month of July versus August, or even the month of June here, I think we say, we were just trying to compare for each individual customer consumption during the month of June versus July and July versus August. And so on the consumption reports, there were fluctuations in the consumption. It's not going to be the same amount every month. It's based on usage. So we did note some fluctuations in those things, and we have provided the detail on all the accounts that we've reviewed and tested to Sherry and Pat, and they can tell you specifically which accounts fluctuated by how much.
Are they normal fluctuations?
Well, again, we can't tell if they're normal fluctuations in that. I mean, I don't think that we saw anything that was just extravagantly different, but we did note that there was fluctuations from month to month based on the usage.
So your fluctuations are from the prior month, not a prior year?
I think that's correct. You can see there that, so we were asked to look at July and August. And so when we looked at July, we compared that to June. Mm-hmm. When we looked at August, we compared that to July. Because the customers selected for August were different than the customers selected for July. So we were just trying to compare the previous month basically to the current month that we were looking at. And then on letter E, we traced the consumption amount reported on the meter reading to the customer's bill. Again, we didn't find any differences when we compared the consumption on that report to the bill. We traced the consumption amount reported on the meter reading report to the utility billing register, and we didn't find any fluctuations or differences there. Letter G, we traced the billing rates that were used in the billing register to the ordinances. So you can see there that Resolution 2219 for the water rates and 3518 for the electric rates. So we traced the billing rates that were used in the billing register to the appropriate ordinance, noting no differences. Letter H there is we recalculated the amount billed to the customer reported on the billing register. So you can see we recalculated the electric and water rates billed to the selected customers reported in the billing registers for those 2 months by taking the consumption amount recalculated from the billing from beginning and ending utility reads and the rates established for the customer from the appropriate ordinances, and we didn't note any differences between the calculations and the amounts reported on the bills. Letter I, we traced the ending charges to the utility billing register to the charges reported on the client's bill. Again, didn't note any differences. And the last item there, that we reviewed the client's account in Springbrook, noting that there weren't any adjustments to the accounts that we selected.
Any additional questions for Chad?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2 under new business is an ordinance approving a settlement agreement with Builder Sand and Gravel, Inc. and Vulcan Materials Services. Can I have a motion, please? Trustee Miles made a motion. Second by Trustee Charo. Any further discussion or question regarding this? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann. Yes. Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 3 is an ordinance amending the village customer services policy to suspend utility shutoffs until May 1, 2021. Can I have a motion, please?
I move.
Trustee Detmer has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, this is as discussed in a prior committee to extend this to line up with our billing procedures. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann. Yes. Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 4 is an ordinance suspending penalties and interest on utility bills for the month of March 2021. Could I have a motion, please?
Make that motion.
Trustee Churchill has made a motion, second by Trustee Charo. Our utility department team duly noted the extensive delay in delivery of utility bills this month and suggested this be a pass, given the fact that the Postal Service was having a difficulty getting things here and in many cases not arriving as bills are approaching due dates. So,
Do we believe they're delivered at this point?
Do we not know that?
seen
More and more people comment that they have got them.
Yeah, mine.
I got ours on Saturday.
I got ours on Saturday, so.
Which
I
is,
think they're, if you haven't got your bill yet, please call the office, okay?
yes. And as my wise wife did long ago,
So do we,
signed up for auto payment so that we didn't miss a single one.
so do we believe this was just a pure mail USPS issue, not a vendor issue?
They delivered it on time. They sent the thing to the post office on the 26th of February, and you didn't receive them until, Saturday, which was with the 7th, 6th. So that's almost 12 days. So 10, 12 days. That's not normal. Usually they drop them off and we receive them within 2 days. So we haven't had any problems in the past that way. So we'll keep monitoring it, but we understand after talking to the local post office and then talking to St. Louis and then in Chicago that Chicago has fallen way behind, and they were looking for some of, I think, the postal carriers from here to come up and assist them in the Chicago area. So hopefully we're past that with the bad weather and everything else. So we'll monitor.
Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann. Yes. Trustee Charo. Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 5 is a resolution appointing Jeff Emmerich to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the village. A motion, please.
I'll move.
Trustee Detmer's made a motion. Second. Second by trustee Mao. Any discussion regarding Mr. Emmerich's appointment?
Can we maybe put on record what his qualifications are? They're pretty good.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing.
He's an
Yeah,
IDOT land surveyor.
27 years experience in the industry. What I read from the resume or
It's in
the
the-
letter of intent.
No, I think it's down in that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had quite the resume.
All right,
I appreciate him
Yes.
volunteering.
Agree.
Madam Clerk?
Trustee Mann. Yes. Trustee Charo. Yes. Trustee Mao. Yes. Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Any additional public comments regarding village business? Hearing none. Scheduled meetings is Planning Commission at 6 p.m. on the 18th. Village Board again on the 23rd, 6 p.m. Utility Oversight Subcommittee, 6 p.m. on April 12th. Village Board, 6 p.m. on April 13th, followed by the Committee of the Whole at 6:15 or thereafter. And Public Properties and Recreation Committee meeting in Municipal Hall on May 10th. We'll handle executive session after the committee. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn the board. Trustee Charles made a motion. Have a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Gerger. All in favor?
Aye.
6:16. Brett, you're
Roll call. Call to order.
Good timing.
Trustee Mann. Present. Trustee Charo. Present. Trustee Mao. Here. Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Detmer.
Here.
Trustee Churchill.
Here.
Public comments on agenda topics. Did we get any?
I don't know if this is an agenda topic, but in my neighborhood, we have some really bad sidewalks. And one of them is on the easement. It's at 414 and 416 East Chestnut. This has probably gone on the 5th year that we've made calls, that we've been up here to meetings, and nothing has been done. And somebody's gonna trip on this sidewalk and seriously hurt themselves. And the tree is on the easement. So it doesn't belong to the it's on between the Jackson's house and, Ozzy's granddaughter's. And it's a huge thing. And part of the sidewalk was probably that much. Started walking again, and I know it's there, and I almost tripped a couple times. I've seen little kids on bicycles with parents or grandparents riding down there, and they've almost fallen over. It really needs to be taken care of and looked at. Like I said, it's probably been 5 years when we started to complain,
Okay.
and nothing's been done.
Can you have somebody look at it, Pat?
There's that big tree root right there. Yes, it's a huge tree. Oh, yeah. There's a big, huge tree root, and it's just buckled the sidewalk from the one side of Jackson's driveway all the way down to about halfway into Amanda's yard. It's really bad.
I've got the addresses down here. I don't know Jack and Amanda, but we'll go by and take a look at it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you. Any other public comments on agenda topics?
Yeah, I'd like to briefly discuss the community garden, Will Tracy, and made some progress. We've got the lease agreement signed with the landowner, so just want to let you guys know about that.
That's great.
Great.
Thank you, Will.
Yeah, good job.
No, can I have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward?
Make the motion.
Trustee Churchill, second by Trustee Charo. Discussion? On minutes? Okay, we're moved to public view right in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look good.
All right. No discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. New business, CMT engineering updates.
Trustee, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
If you guess Mr. Butler
Sure.
and these gentlemen, maybe if you would reorder your,
Number 6,
start with number 6.
and then go up.
2.
All right. So number 6, zoning variance petition submitted by Charles Butler, Butler Funeral Home, for utilization of existing upstairs apartment above the funeral home to be used for living quarters or a watchman quarters.
The funeral home had the proper zoning for a funeral home, okay? But that zoning does not allow for a watchman's quarters. A I-zoning does, but the funeral home with the cremation parlor did not fall in that zoning. So we posted a zoning variance for that. They had a public hearing on March 4th. Zoning Board of Appeals voted 4-0 to allow for the variance, to allow for Butler Funeral Home to have a watchman's quarters in the upper level of their business.
Okay.
Okay?
Any questions for Mr. Butler?
Did anyone speak in opposition?
They did not.
Okay.
There was one person in favor of it, according to the report.
There was one person in favor of it?
Yeah, I believe if I read that correctly.
Outside the committee.
Oh, outside the, okay. I was like,
I was just reading the report that was provided by the zoning variance committee.
Finding of fact.
Chris, do you want to give a quick explanation of what this room is?
Yeah,
And the fact
quick
that it exists
explanation.
before?
Yeah, there's an apartment that existed above the funeral home. When we purchased the funeral home, there was somebody living there. When we purchased the funeral home, that person stayed. They were an associate and they're still with us. They ended up buying their own home, and so we cleaned up and renovated the apartment. It was during that time that we discovered the zoning issue, that it wasn't zoned for that, and so then we brought it forward. Part of the reason is because without the zoning, there's no mailbox allowed and things like that. But it would be very helpful for us to have somebody there. The previous associate was very, very helpful to attend to things, after hours if needed and stuff like that. But what really kind of pushed it forward, even after the renovation, was we also have an associate who is interested in living there, and it would be good for them, good for us, and I don't think it would it wouldn't adversely affect anything or anybody around the property. It's probably beneficial, really, to have somebody there.
Sure. Do we need
open for any questions.
this forward to the regular, or are we just okay?
Yeah, unless you have
Yeah.
additional questions for Mr.
Greg, is
Butler.
it an ordinance or a resolution giving a variance? It'll be in 2 weeks,
Yeah.
but we wanted to present it at the committee of the whole.
Yep.
I appreciate you clearing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And Chairman, if I would,
Yeah.
Chris, while you're still here, Chairman, do you have any need for Mr. Butler to come back in 2 weeks?
No, I think it's going through.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you.
just have Ryan notify you, okay?
Okay. Well, thank you all. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'll need a motion to, Greg, resolution or ordinance? Okay, I need a motion to have an ordinance to approve that zoning variance.
I move.
I'll make that motion.
Trustee Detmer, seconded by Trustee Churchill. Can I get it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now, CMT engineering update?
He said
No,
did
we
you?
got another person?
And you can,
Number 2, village manager update.
Yeah, I'd like to introduce a couple gentlemen from I3 Core Broadband.
Gotcha.
They're here to talk about their plans for bringing an additional broadband service to the village of Chatham. If you guys like to come up here, whichever one of you just want to speak. Or
I'll jump up.
all right,
It's much better look. That's true. I do have some packets, if that's appropriate.
sure.
Just some. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time this evening. We appreciate a few moments. I'll try not to take up a lot of your time. My name is Josh Bradbury. I'm the general manager for I3 Broadband. And as he said, we are going to be, we're very excited to announce that we're going to be building to the city of Chatham and to the village of Chatham here in the coming weeks. So we're looking to have that happen here, begin probably mid-April is kind of our time frame. We want to make sure that all of you are aware of who we are, what we do, why it's valuable, why it's important for the community. So have a small little presentation here. I'll go through it quickly, but a little bit about us. We are currently the largest fiber to the home provider in downstate Illinois. And Brian likes to say we've been providing high-speed internet since dial-up was cool, because we've been doing it since 2004. We've been providing fiber to businesses and now to residents for decades. So we currently provide service to the greater Peoria area, Champaign-Urbana, Springfield, Jacksonville, and now we're excited to announce that we'll be in Chatham as well. So some things that make us different, we really try to differentiate ourselves from the cable companies that are the incumbents here. We are 100% fiber optic underground service, so we'll bring all fiber. We don't use any of the old plant, copper or the coaxial plant. We really try to make sure that we are involved with every community that we enter. So that relationship's important, and that's why we're here tonight, to make sure you know who we are and what we're doing. We have a very strong focus on customer service. We are investing a lot of money into the community, and if we don't do a good job of protecting our customers and protecting your residents and taking care of them, then we're going to have a failed investment. So it's very important that we're going to be doing some underground construction, which can be messy. We're going to resolve it, and we're going to make sure that any issues are addressed right away. Okay, so that's otherwise we just throw away a lot of investment. So some exciting things about what we're bringing is that this is the technology that's going to be used across the country, across the world for the next decades. It is 100% fiber optic, so it is upgradable. Currently, right now, we provide speeds up to 1 gigabit. This year, we'll be able to upgrade that, and we'll be able to provide residential and small business speeds up to 10 gigabits. It's also going to be, right now, our upload speed, which is what we use for Zoom, things like that, are already about 3 to 4 times what the cable companies can do. This year, we'll also be upgrading to completely bidirectional speeds. So currently, our lowest package is 200 megabits per second download speed, and that will be an upload of 200 megabits per second as well. So it's as we've all learned over the last year, really now, in order for us to be able to function appropriately as a society, we have to be able to video conference each other, and it's going to be more and more of that. And this is the type of infrastructure that will be able to accommodate that for years to come. And just coming in, obviously, right now there's a monopoly in the area for who can provide a high capacity service, and so we're bringing competition. It benefits job growth. It benefits a lot of parts of the economy for every community that we come to. I won't go into a lot of the details, but do want to make ourselves will be available for any questions or comments as well. Here if you do need. So what we will be seeing very soon is we'll start sending out communications to every neighborhood by neighborhood when we plan to be building in their community. So the first will be a construction notice. It's designed not to look like a piece of marketing. It is a notice. We're coming to your neighborhood. We'll follow that up a few days later with a frequently asked question and a letter from Brian and myself explaining kind of what I'm talking about tonight. Also want to make sure that you all have our contact information. Residents, no matter how many pieces of mail we bring, there's still going to be people who say, hey, nobody ever told us. What are they doing in my yard right now, right? I want you all to know who to contact, who to call, who to touch base with if you do see those inquiries from your constituents. So that's kind of, I have a breakdown of kind of the different things that you'll see. From there, after the construction notices come, people will begin seeing flags in their yard, marking the utilities. Many of the utilities provided by you all here as well. Following that, within about 10 days or so, we'll start seeing the drills come through the neighborhood that we will drill through. And following that will be our crews, fiber optic splicers, that will kind of make all the final connections and test and activate a neighborhood. So within about 8 weeks from the time that we send the postcard, about 8 weeks later, we'll be able to activate services inside of that neighborhood. So. And then finally, I have on the page 8 here, we have kind of just a look of what this happened in Springfield last year. This was an area that was brought to our attention by the City Council of Springfield. If you see there on page 8, we have Thursday, November 14th. There is what looks like just chaos, right? It does not. It looks like there's a big mess being made. We got a call on Friday the 15th of last year, letting us know, hey, there's a resident that's upset. By the time we were able to get in touch with our contractor, on Saturday morning, the 16th, that's what it looked like. So want to make sure that you're aware that it is construction. It can look a little bit messy at times. It's very much our highest priority that we address every single bit of construction as fast and as effectively as possible. So, and if you see any different than that, we please urge you to reach out to us. We want to rectify that immediately. So, that's the bulk of what I want to communicate to you all tonight. And certainly if there's any questions, we'll make ourselves available if it's appropriate now or later. Yes.
Thanks for coming to town.
Absolutely.
It's nice to have it. I think a lot of people will be excited to know that there's an option out there. And did I hear you say that so if you come through town and you've gone down my street, I'll get a postcard, and then within about 8 weeks is when, and I'll have that information if someone wants to look into obtaining your service.
Absolutely. And you can, and if you go to our website right now, you can sign up for services. And as those neighborhoods are activated, we'll go through the initial signups, and we'll begin calling and scheduling those installations once that's appropriate. But you can sign up is available right now. You can put in the address. It'll give you a message saying, congratulations, we're building the city of, we're building Chatham, Illinois this year. And you can go through all the services that we offer and sign up for services with no obligation, right? So there's no, you can sign up now and we don't bill anything or charge anything until you receive services, until you're installed.
What's your path into town? Where are you coming from?
Not that guy. I'm not the engineering guy. We can certainly provide some maps as well, which we will with as we're getting our permitting and everything under sorted out. So we'll give all that information to you all as our engineering team finalizes that.
Are we working on a franchising agreement with them?
Yes.
We have to pay for them just like we do Comcast, the extra fee.
The extra fee.
With Comcast, we pay a merchandise fee each month for them to be in town. Every Comcast customer pays that.
So on our internet product, there are no fees, no taxes right now through the state. So our internet bill, the initial package is $49.99 for a 200 megabit connection. Your bill's $49.99 every month. For television, getting a franchise through the state, there are some obligatory fees that are charged that are very standard throughout whichever community we're in. Those are the only ones that would be on there. The standard fees.
With Chatham, we pay a separate fee.
Okay.
For Comcast.
Gotcha.
It's the franchise tax that he's talking about, which is the tax that companies like that provide television. It's the payment for the right to be able to do all the construction through town and lay all that in. Correct. It's the rent on the ground is essentially what it is.
So then we'll be paying 2 franchise fees, one for Comcast.
You only pay with whoever service you have.
Right.
If you have no services, you pay nothing.
Yeah, I have plenty. I don't pay any service. Those are standard for the state. It's not just Chatham. It's state.
And so what kind of changes would go on inside the home? I mean, it's not going to hook up like your cable does now.
No, it doesn't. So we bring a fiber line. So again, we're fiber to 100% fiber. So we bring a fiber line up to your house. Actually, there is a imagery on there on page 9, I believe. We put that singular junction box on the outside of the house.
Right. On
the inside is a wall plate where there's another fiber jumper that goes into what's called an optical network terminal. And that is what, think about a modem is essentially what it is. Everything else is wireless then from inside the home. If you notice the other picture that's there is just a green lid that is flush to the ground. We don't put any pedestals or anything else in rights of way or utility easements. We use vaults that are flush to the ground. They're green. The purpose that it's more expensive, more costly to do it that way. Purpose is we don't want to disrupt the neighborhood when we're done, right? So if we have big pedestals like you see with the other utilities, that becomes, now the third one becomes quite an eyesore and people not real thrilled with changing the aesthetic of their yard.
Is your focus internet?
Our focus is internet. Yep, it definitely is. The television business is a tough one. Our costs continue to go up. In general, the industry is moving towards more and more streaming, and we're fine with that. We've been in business doing fiber to the home For over a decade, we've never had an increase in our internet rates. We have consistently increased the speed for the same price. Just last year, we increased download and upload speeds across the board with no action from the customer. We just sent them an email saying, hey, congratulations, you're getting faster speeds as of your next bill. So that's our main focus is the internet. But absolutely have a television product that's very competitive with all the normal channels and packages that you're used to seeing from other providers.
What do you charge? Is there a charge for a homeowner from that box to the home?
There's not free installation, no contracts, no data caps, which is huge for me. I know, and at any given time, I might have 6 televisions or devices streaming with all my kids going crazy watching stuff. And about the 15th of the month, my data cap is pretty close. Clearly, I don't live in our service area currently. We have no data caps, no contracts. It is get the internet that you want, at what speed you want, and use as much of it as you can.
What's your top price for internet now?
1 gig is
Today.
$89.99.
Okay. Any other questions? This is really a good thing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, and certainly we've make sure that you all have our contact information. Please reach out. Any questions down the road, let us know. We want to be able to address them for you. So.
And you're Josh?
I'm Josh.
Yeah.
This is Brian.
Thank you. Thank you, John. All right. Thank you.
Yes. I just want to reinforce, really just the same. My name is Brian Olson. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of I3 Broadband. Some kind words from Josh, but I just wanted to really reinforce that each and every community we do come and serve is really about developing a relationship with all of us, right? So, again, we're available. You can call our office. You can call the main 800 number and say, I want to speak to Josh. And our agents will say, okay, right? If there's anyone with this issue, obviously building a citywide utility infrastructure isn't going to come without its pain points. But we do, with each community we serve, want to just reinforce the relationship that we're here to create for a very, very long time. So we're looking forward to it, and we do hope you all are as well. Thank you.
One last question. What's your expected time frame?
Well, we build in groups of about 300 homes each, right? That's kind of what we refer to as our assembly line. As Josh mentioned, really, when we start in each of those neighborhoods, you typically see about an 8-week turnaround for the initial process starting to the time we're activating customers. But, you know, to that point of the actual construction process, there's pieces of that unfold, right? So, you know, day 1, they're going to dig a hole. Well, day 2, they're going to have drilling. So our director of engineering always refers to it as, you know, making sausage. It's not really pretty as it's happening, but it's sure delicious at the end, right? So there's a couple of weeks of that between the time in which holes are being dug and vaults are being set and conduits being laid, to the point where then following them will be the restoration crews, ensuring that the grass heals and is set right. The good news is early this season as we're beginning here in Chatham, this is the greatest time of the year to do underground construction because the moisture content of the soil and all the conditions are just right for that. By about midsummer, a lot of that activity is going to be almost invisible. It'll look like the network has been there for years. So, any other questions?
I got one. Are you guys going to plan on having a storefront or some sort of office building here in the community? Just kind of call in, which I think you guys.
Probably not. Here in Chatham, what the irony is, Josh and I were working a little late to the meeting today. We have a retail office up on West White Oak, right there, on the southwest side of Springfield. Yeah, and even that, we're actually looking for a different one. Our growth plan is you know, good for us. We've outgrown it already, even just a few years after releasing it, you know, deploying Springfield. So we're actually looking at a larger facility. It's even further south. So we got here in, I think, 9 minutes. So just north of whatever street that is over there.
Walnut.
Still north of Panther Creek.
Still in there and driving distance and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right at Target. That's where we were just looking there.
Everyone knows Target.
And the thing that the village has to worry about is we really have one locator. and imagine locating all the utilities for every single street and every single subdivision in town. So we'll be getting some people trained up on devices, and they're going to supply us a couple locators to be able to take care of that so that we can stay in front of them. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all. Very appreciative of your time.
All right, now CMT
CMT, here.
engineering updates. Yeah, sorry, Jim, I had you called. I had you called.
We knew you wanted some opening acts, Jim.
You were my leadoff hitter.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay, I got a couple of items here. Some of the more visual items that we're looking at is patching works ongoing on Plumber Boulevard. Street crews working through that, so I've been coordinating with them in terms of layout of patches, and they're doing that concrete work. That'll be ongoing here through the spring and summer of this year. The other one is working with Dustin and the Parks Department for some concrete improvements along the bike path. A couple of segments there that bike path pavement was heaved due to tree roots. So those are being cut out and the pavement replaced. The first patch was poured today. Anticipate the remainder of the work here to cover tomorrow, possibly the next day, depending on their progress. So you'll see that the signs out here where the bike paths closed. Hope to have that open back up by Monday next week, and be usable for the patrons here in Chatham. Some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that's going on, as I mentioned last meeting, Oprah plans are at IDOT for review and approval. That is from Acacia to Peachtree. We're combined what we were going to do this year with what we're going to do last year, so that'll be one larger project. I will make some phone calls here and make sure that's still on schedule and push that along so we don't fall in the same trap, and I'll report out on that at the next meeting. We also sent in updated Mft program. There's some items that we added to the program and some things that we deleted just due to COVID and items that just didn't get accomplished. So as part of that, what we ended up doing is just switching the money within the Mft fund around, and then IDOT has to review that and approve that prior to issuance of payment. So just slight reductions or slight revisions to the 2020-2021 Mft program. The overall program stays at the same amount.
What were some of those updates and reductions, the changes to those?
One of the big ones was adding oil and chip. So working in conjunction with the township and doing some oil and chip work that wasn't initially planned. So we've moved some funding around items that we just didn't get to last year, which part of that is going to be, we had sidewalk, curb, and gutter work that we deleted some of the money out of that, but we still have the monies in there for concrete patching that work can still be accommodated in those activities. So more of it, more or less, is just moving money between different activities. Work items are still continuing forward.
So just gives like light item.
Yes. So total stays the same. Therefore we didn't, that doesn't need a whole new resolution. It's just an update. So, and then we're also working on planning out the next year's plan for 2021, 2022. Have that to you guys here earlier this year to make sure that we hit the ground running and move forward with those projects. A couple of other things that we have going on. One, working with the water department, looking at doing flushing zone 1 here at the end of the month. So there will be some updates in the GIS mapping and then some reporting out with the village's website in terms of keeping residents aware of what areas we're going to hit, those dates, and then when things are completed. So it'll just be that rolling map again that's accessible by the village website to keep everyone.
What side of town is Zone 1?
Just that is going to be from the ground storage tank back through to the center of town. So
okay.
It's going to be more the eastern portion.
All right, thanks, Jim.
So,
and of course, with that flushing, there could be discoloration.
Yes. Yes, just because of the way that the water moves through the mains, but we'll move systematically through the mains and then flush as we go out to minimize those disruptions.
And are we flushing zone 1 again because of the high manganese here lately?
Yes. Yes. And part of it's just the rotation, but yes, the high manganese is also a consideration. So that's one thing too that we've talked with Dustin and his crews, and also working with South Sangamon to get their issues under control. So, we're not having to do this.
They have issues? What? Some would say that.
Give me that guy.
All right, moving on.
Yes.
Let's see, what else do we have? So then, let's see, last item I have on here, and Dewey, this is near and dear to your heart. So what we've done is looked at the drainage associated with, can we flip that image, Pat?
It's north is up.
I understand.
Okay, which way you want it? That way?
Full view so we can see the whole image in the screen.
All right, just go.
Oh, boy.
All right, perfect. North is to the right, which is the second desired orientation. So what we have here is kind of the drainage area that we've defined that goes to the box culvert at the park. So, underneath South Main, the box culvert at this location. This area here drains down to that portion. This area here drains down to that portion. And all collects at the box culvert going underneath South Main, and then ultimately drains to the park. So one of the areas of consideration that we've been talking about is flooding in the subdivision area at Parkview. So there's two locations where residents are experiencing flooding. One is about midway through along this channel right through here, and then the other is on the far west side through that channel there. The electric garage and the buildings and the facilities out there kind of provide a divide. So we have this basin 1, which is, just a little bit over 80 acres here. It drains into basin 7, which is about 14 acres, and then drains through a small diameter pipe at this location, about an 8-inch pipe that goes underneath the roadway and continues down. That area through the village's facilities always stays wet. Drainage pour there, and it's flat, it holds water, continues to stay wet. The other basin that we have is basin 8. That comes through the farm field area here, goes through a series of pipes underneath the driveway culvert, ultimately goes into the backyards of those patrons, or of the homeowners, drains through a 36-inch pipe that runs straight east, and then runs north along South Main. That improvement was done a number of years ago by the village closing that ditch. So the issue that we have out there is, we have these two areas of flood houses. The problem is that we need to do something, or if something needs to be done out there, we can't simply move the water from one area to another because they both flood. So anything that we do in basin 7, in terms of improvements, will negatively impact the people downstream in basin 7. Anything that we do in basin 8 will negatively impact people downstream on both basin 8, or moving water back between the two basins. Ultimately, in a high flow condition,
They just move that up.
water will kind of balance between the two.
Grab
You
the
see mass
bar
flooding
on the right.
last spring.
Slide in.
Ultimately,
See that great?
that's a condition that these residents have either enjoyed or not enjoyed, for quite some time. At this point, we're reluctant to do any additional improvements out there in terms of, branch collection site or additional paving or anything that would increase runoff or, aggravate that current flooding condition downstream. One thing that's been thrown around and was brought up as a part of the comprehensive plan was to do a pond facility out there that would serve both as a stormwater mitigation feature and as a recreational site. I know the village has talked to a couple of contractors and looking at the feasibility of doing such a facility. And what we have looked at in this basin To correct both of these problems, it would take about a 5-acre pond surface area with a operating water surface elevation of about 3.5 to 4 feet. So you'd see the water at low tide coming down in a major storm event, about 3.5, 4 feet. And then would subside after those, that storm event. And what that would do is if that was situated in Basin 8, which is the village property right here, the farm property, if that's situated in Basin 8, we can direct Basin 1 and Basin 7 over to Basin 8, and it would correct both of those drainage issues. The other one, too, is the release rate from that pond would be set at or equal to the capacity of the 36-inch pipe that currently drains that system. So what happens then is there's very little additional pipe work that would need to be done to accommodate that, and the bulk of the improvements would be the excavation, grading, earthwork associated with the creation of a pond facility at that location. One thing I've talked to Pat with too, we'd probably want to get Massey and Massey involved with that as well to make sure that whatever we're doing is also consistent with the comprehensive plan and also it's consistent with future park activities or future dock activities or future recreation activities. As engineers, we like to build everything nice square, make it all as efficient as possible, but that doesn't blend very well for parks. So, getting some grading in there, if there's some pre-grading while they're out there, it doesn't cost much more to do those activities to set it up for the ultimate improvement. What it is instead of a square basin, maybe it's a lima bean shape, or maybe it's, some sort of aesthetic feature associated with it that is conducive for fishing. Maybe we have a deeper area and a shallower area. Those things that we would bring in a landscape architect to help work out the fine details or the setup. But the initial goal, and just talking with Pat, would be, let's get the hardware in there first. It solves the flooding problems, that are available for, that we can address immediately. And then any other secondary improvements can be phased in as either funds or grants or, other monies are available.
So Jim, would that stop the flooding of the horse farm then?
Okay, that would maintain the same drainage that the horse farm is seeing right now. Okay. Now the flooding that it would stop is any of the overflow that came through Basin 8 and where you see the overflow going through the subdivision, running through the streets, running between houses, and then continuing downstream. But as you see, the majority of this basin is from off-site. So Basin 12 comes down South Main. Basin, 2, 3, 5, 6 all comes back down to over underneath the river and comes through. So the part that we're improving is, a smaller part that's within the village of Chatham and it's solving, issues associated directly with flooding of the houses in Parkview Subdivision.
So this would not increase the flooding of the horse farm, it would just maintain what it
The horse farm would generally maintain maybe slight reduction in a high intensity event, but they're not going to see an improvement per se.
They're not going to see water stop.
Correct. So because the majority of the watershed is coming from outside of the area that we're improving. So ultimately, that was another thing that we discussed in terms of, possibly some sort of a naturalization project through the park where, get rid of the field tile systems in there, lower that ditch, turn it into more of a natural, stream, put a nice riparian buffer in there, make it, 150 foot wide of, more wetland type plants and so forth through the park to help alleviate the drainage through that area. But, that's another phase or, another project at another time.
Yeah, but also assist in keeping silt out of Lake Springfield.
Yeah, right. Whole projects would really, even the pond would act as a silt trap as well.
Well, another potential issue that anytime, you have that still stagnant water like this would be, is, the mosquito havens and those major issues like that could cause, not only irritation issues, but safety too. that increase in mosquitoes and everything. And
You mean at the pond?
Yeah.
Well, maybe we put an aerator in it.
Yeah, the
You know.
pond can have an aerator. The other thing too is there is a good continuous amount of flow that goes through there. There's an extensive tile system. You know, within this basin one, we've coordinated with the farmer that owns this property here, manages this property. So there's a huge tile wall here that, you know, will be routed back in through the pond, just accepting the natural drainage that goes through, you know, the village's property. But, you know, that's going to be a continuous flow of water all the time. So I don't anticipate, you know, having this, you know, muck green cesspool. We would dig it deep enough. Minimum is 10 feet to avoid, you know, a lot of that algae growth or the water being so warm that, you know, promotes that growth. So, you know, any excavation that we would have there would be deeper than that to keep it more maintenance free, and also so it doesn't soak up in 5 years and we're out there dredging.
So, Jim, do you have an estimate of cost?
So some preliminary numbers for the excavation that have been running around is somewhere in the $150,000 to $200,000 range.
I remember that.
To get the culvert redirected in place?
That's digging in the hole, the 5 acre.
Redirecting it, landscaping it, that kind of stuff.
Not all the finishing work, okay? You know, whether we have to come back and seed it and turn around and put topsoil over it and get it all ready to go. It's not building any docks or anything to fish from. It's get the engineering part done. And then after that,
in there, all the, you know, the pretties in terms of, you know, the landscape architecture work and specialty plantings or, you know, the embellishments that would be additional.
we would need a parking lot for people if they were going to come out and fish, a road to go in there, be able to turn around and exit and stuff. So all that stuff would have
Around the naturally square pond.
Yeah.
staged in, yeah.
A place for a bait shop.
Yeah.
Of the farm property? The village's property, you're probably looking at what, like 25 acres?
I don't know if it's that much.
Call it. I'm looking at 41 acres for both, so maybe 20 this year. 20, yeah.
Section here is 20.
Yeah, 20 acres. Yeah.
So real quick, I believe, Jim, I heard 2 phases. The first, the hardware phase, where I'm guessing we're installing something that goes from where Basin and 7 and 11 meet. Are we going directly east? Or maybe I misunderstood.
So
I'd like to hear the time frames of the solution, really is what I'm...
So if there needs to be some sort of stormwater mitigation, facility that needs to go in there. Ultimately, we would like it to benefit both of the areas that flood.
Right.
So the intent would be to build a pond here in Basin 8 at this location, and then Basin 1 and 7 would be routed back through into the pond.
Yep.
Okay, so there'd be a drainage ditch that bypasses this portion here, brings that down, and then discharges into the pond. So that would take care of a lot of both.
Right, the ultimate goal, right, I understand that, but I thought you had mentioned that, phase 1 would be the hardware phase, and phase 2, as money became available, we could look to put a pond in. So is there an interim solution?
Is the pond.
In terms of what I'm saying, the pond, the basic
Pond is hardware.
And the piping.
I've been going to the wrong ponds, I think, not that hard, but okay, I understand.
So pond piping, just the nuts and bolts, when it rains, there's no more flooding, that component.
Okay.
The secondary component is going to be, as Pat mentioned, parking lot, docks, gazebos, specialty plantings, those type of, more of the soft landscaping items that would be more consistent with the comprehensive plan and the full build out of that park area.
Okay.
Jim's going to make it work. Ken's going to make it pretty.
Right. No, I understand. I was just thrown off at the term hardware.
I like that you're self-aware.
That's a perfect explanation.
Yeah.
What'd you say in the time frame? Like, I think Trustee Detmers was asking time frame. Do we have an idea?
I think it first takes commitment from the village to drop $200K, and so is that being considered in this upcoming budget, or? Because
we're showing it to you now that if you want us to put out for bids and then be able to try to fit that into the budget, we can do that. Or put it in the budget temporarily, put it out for bids, and then see if those bids come back in the ballpark of what we're talking.
Yeah, I think, my initial response to that would be that it was discussed at the Public Properties Commission comprehensive plan of all public properties. I think there was a drawing that looked pretty cool, and it seemed to be well received for those that attended at the library. And then secondly, too, I know those houses in Basin 11 have been flooded for quite a while, and we haven't really provided any relief. So personally, I'd like to see something done. I'm not sure if, I understand and respect Jim's position on the pond being the solution. I don't know if there's a faster, cheaper solution to provide better drainage directly east from where 7 and 11 meet directly to South Main. So I'll leave that up to the engineers, but.
And we can run through some numbers on there, but really what you're looking at is pond versus pipe. And, if you could imagine having to pipe, the capacity of that runoff all the way back from Basin 7 through 8, all the way back down to South Main. It's packed full of utilities, right of ways tight, everything else through there. You're probably looking at a higher cost just in the pipe and the labor and the construction activities associated with that than the pond itself. The nice thing about the pond is it can utilize the existing outlet that's there now. The 36-inch pipe would work under that scenario for an outlet pipe. You'd probably have a lower pipe that would be a smaller diameter that would just draw down the pond after a storm slowly, over a course of hours or even days, so that the capacity of the pond returns. But what we're looking at is any kind of overflow from the pond would be at the capacity of the 36-inch pipe. So the pond will fill up, it starts to breach, the 36-inch pipe takes it from there with limited flooding downstream. It's controlled through that pond. And really from a day-to-day activity, that would be designed for the 100-yard events. So, theoretically, those people would never see those events, but
we have those
statistics. It's
once about every 3 years. Right now, I wouldn't bet on anything not happening in the near future.
Every year, you have a 1% chance of it happening. So that's what we're looking at. So people call it a 100-year event. Really, it's more of a statistical analysis and saying every year there's a 1% chance of that occurring.
Just a real quick final thing is, so we're taking the water potentially from Basin 1 and Basin 7 and pumping it into a pond in Basin 8. Do we believe that the alternative drainage area to the north of Basin 11 is capable of handling the waters from 3, 5, and 6? Or will we need work? That land is disturbed there in Basin 6. That's the area I'm talking about. Do we believe, based on the geographical studies, that 3, 5, and 6 can ride that nice, pretty tree line there?
Well, the thing is, that's where it goes now. So, whether or not that there are negative impacts on, 3, 5, and 6, or if the drainage is, perfectly improved in 3, 5, and 6, we're assuming that the existing conditions will remain the same. Any development in those areas in the future would require ponds or detention facilities to slow that flow up to accommodate this system. I mean, ideally, your basin, the ditch through Basin 11 is not ideal. I mean, I would love that to be cleaned out. I would love that to be more streamlined. But once again, that's not really reducing the flow per se, because the water's still going to get through there. It may get through there at a slightly higher elevation, but it's going to make its way through there. There's no stopping that activity. But, to improve, we're dealing with the problems that we have at hand. Are there more improvements that we could do out there? Certainly. Would it, benefit out there? Sure. But the main goal that we're seeing is, how do we solve existing drainage problems with flooding of houses, known flooding of houses, try to correlate that with a public improvement that's, sought after and actually desired, and marry those two up together.
And that makes sense. I just was trying to set my own personal expectations, because the houses that are outlined in Basin 11 have obviously complained and are concerned, and rightfully so. I'm just wondering if the houses on the south side of Basin 9 will still have a problem. That's what I'm ultimately getting at is, yeah, we're going to satisfy the south of that road, but will we satisfy the north of Parkway Drive?
In terms of the north of Parkway Drive, those conditions will be slightly improved, similar to Trustee Mao's comment of, are we solving the drainage at the horse farm? We'll see a slight benefit of that because, that water will be continuing through there at that rate, especially in a flood condition where everything runs between the houses, over the streets, over the curb and gutters, and through the neighborhood, resulting in, surcharging of their storm sewer systems. But, if there's secondary improvements, behind the houses in Basin 9, that's something that, I'd work with Pat in terms of, is that a village issue? Is that a homeowner's issue in terms of maintenance of that ditch?
Right.
Because, we're fixed at the culvert underneath the railroad, and we're fixed at the culvert underneath South Main. So unless we're going to take that all the way down to South Park, file that whole ditch. And if we look at an improvement like that someday down the future, maybe there's an opportunity to lower the culvert at South Main, which then we can lower the drainage through that drainage ditch there. But that would be dependent upon work that we would have to do through the park itself.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I'll staff my audience.
Thank you. Appreciate Public Property and Recreation Committee discussion.
Yeah, the Public Property Commission, Public Properties and Recreation Committee met last night. That was the first meeting of Craig Olson, which we all appointed. The major items that were discussed were the possible grant funding from the state of Illinois, the projects that we've identified, the priorities established across each of them. That's going well. We did have some updates from Dustin with respect to some of the initial price estimates, and so some of the projects may have to move in and out depending on formal bids. But hopefully we'll have our application to the state soon, and we'll ultimately find out if our grant will be established or warranted or gifted. The second item we talked about briefly was potential lighting along the interurban trail bike path. There was a map drawn and some potential locations identified for lighting and approximate costs to establish that lighting. I think generally speaking, the commission, I should say, was more along the lines of wishing to improve the existing bike path and its safety issues prior to installing new lights. So if funds became available, the commission says fix the potholes rather than spend the money on increased lighting.
Trustee Detmers, may I? So I had a constituent reach out about it. I appreciate you guys talking about that, and I think that person would agree with that and support that, but appreciate you guys talking about that as an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some potential grants that I'm trying to work through and seeing if we can fund lighting and or pothole repairs through those grants, but the timeliness of those things is going to slow us down. But that was discussed, and then one last item was that there's an ordinance that governs the Public Properties Commission. That ordinance is a little outdated. We're working to update that, and we'll bring it forth to this commission for concerns or consideration. So. Any questions?
Okay. Utility Oversight Committee discussion. So, Dustin, thank you for showing up last night, and we discussed the manganese and the levels and the trains. And Bill Brown is working in conjunction with the plant operator to go through some processes to lessen our manganese. The manganese has cost us a considerable extra cost because we are having to go in and reflush. So we talked about, what we could do to pursue maybe getting those costs back, even though we'd be going against ourselves. But so ultimately what the committee discussed was trying to find solutions to this water plant, so to speak. And as a whole, we were agreeable in doing a resolution of sorts, Greg. Trustee Churchill had some ideas of what it would look like, but it would include us talking to outside entities and any solution that we can find, and empowering that committee to try to find something. So we'll get, Trustee Churchill and I will get you some language for a resolution. We'll discuss at the next committee of the whole, so we can all get on board with whatever the resolution would look like. But we discussed it last night, and everybody was willing to go forward it, and we'd also include, in those solutions, include Dustin and any of that too. We all thought it'd be beneficial because he has to deal with and Pat, of course, because they have to deal with the headaches every day with regards to this. So that's what they basically recommended up to the board, and we'll produce it, and then we can have a discussion on it at the next committee of the whole to see if that's something we do want to do as a board. Anything to add, Trustee Churchill? Still no chloramines. I know it's a surprise.
Are you looking for a resolution to go to outside to have somebody take over the water plant?
No, solutions to solving our issues at the water plant. Any and all.
Well, they've been trying to do that for years.
Well, this is going to be a more concerted effort. We have solutions we can already work on, and we discussed a couple of those last night. We have some irons in the fire, so to speak, and we just want to move forward with things.
Have they converted over yet? Nope.
No, that's what I said. No surprise, they have not yet. So we hope to. They did tell us they would have it by CWLP season, so to speak, and so we'll try to hold them to that. But that was the discussion last night. Anything to add, Paul?
I think that pretty much covered it. We tried to put in some time frames of how would we go and look about this.
Correct. Try to tie things down and just have some comfortable conversations and just solve it. So next, village manager qualifications. I've been doing my own research to try to compile some stuff and then call the contact you gave me at UIS. I have them all compiled, so I hope to go to him, and then by the next committee of the whole, I'd have an update. I was surprised by, and Greg, I'll probably want to talk to you about it. I was surprised some villages put a lot of qualifications in there. Yeah, I was very, very surprised of the level of qualifications. So when I get the list, I'll show you too to see, and then I'll talk to UIS. So I know it's okay on your end before I get any input from him.
Sounds good.
And then whatever I develop with him to bring back here, I'll let you see before too.
Okay.
All right. We did the zoning. Any public comments on village business?
Pat, have any more under the
Village manager.
Yeah, I've got, the electric department's been working on, changing the transformers out at the, J.C.'s Park, concession building. They should have that done, they thought, this week. One of the things that they're planning on doing also is changing all the lights out around the, basketball courts to LEDs. And then changing the timer to a photocell so they'll stay on from dusk till dawn. The park still closes at 9, but at least that will help the police out in the future, that there'll be a lot more light out there. And with the LEDs, it pretty much aims down instead of out. So,
Just speaking of lights and going back to the earlier discussion, has there been any issues on the bike path that, just like with that, no one's supposed to be out there, but, lights would help with the basketball park. Have we had?
I think people use the bike path after hours. But if you got any problems, Scott, of people getting robbed or scared or anything? Yeah.
We haven't really had problems on the bike path.
Yeah.
There are people that use it to, in good weather, they use it to go back and forth between
Yeah, to commute.
Okay.
And the other items, the village will be doing the spring cleanup again, like we did in the fall with the dumpsters. We're gonna put out for bids for dumpsters, and April the 24th. That's a Saturday down at the community park.
The right date.
And then when we do our regular spring, where waste management goes around and picks up leaf bags and yard waste, I talked to them and asked them to try to schedule somewhere around the first 2 to 3 weeks of April. So as people go out and start to clean up their gardens or cut back their old bushes and stuff like that, that gives them a couple more weeks to be able to have that stuff ready to go. So that's about the same time that we did both of those items last year. The 24th coincides with the Chambers, was it Green?
Village Cleanup Day, 22nd, Earth Day weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Any public comments on village business? All right. Hearing none, schedule of meetings. Committee of the Whole, 6:15, Municipal Hall, April 13th, 2021. We do have reason to go into closed session, Amy, for 2, 3, and 5.
2, 3.
Say what they are. Ask for
2, personnel under 2C1. 3, collective negotiating matter 2C2. Review of executive session minutes 5 ILCS 140-71L.
There you go.
And we'll have no further business after we adjourn. So can I have a motion to go to executive session? Trustee Chari?
Second.
Trustee Shershov? All those in favor?
Roll call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Charo.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Sherschel.
Yes.